Okay, it's day 104.4, and I did a show earlier today about how this company called Conceras, and I guess I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's a top secret company with 40,000 employees and no videos on YouTube. So I don't know, and I couldn't find any articles where people were pronouncing it. So I'm going to say Conceras until I know any better. But they have all these set aside contracts. So a 40,000 person company with all these set aside contracts, and they themselves are considered a small business with top secret clearances. Okay, so they have the DHS contract, they have the DISA contract. I've seen Imran Awan in both of those situations. They also have the GSA situation. Obviously, at the Sprayer House, we had that situation. Also, the Small Business Administration, which is right next to Judicial Watch, I believe. And then we also have them with the intelligence community providing cars. So this is a big company. It's like DynCorp size company. It's almost like they just changed the name of DynCorp. Anyway, hey George Webb, the guy says, this gentleman says, great investigating. Try harder before you slander 40,000 good folks. And they, I'm a fantasy man. Okay. So I said, do you know who Scott Clotworthy is, and why is he standing next to the UNHA-3 rocket in North Korea? Again, I didn't write this. I want to assure this gentleman I did not write this article where Scott's standing next to a rocket. Now, if I'm Bob Mueller and my dad ran, or not my dad, but one of my distant relatives ran the NASA program, and all of a sudden I see tremendous progress in the rocket program in North Korea, I think my suspicions are justified to dig further. Now, that's not all the information I had. I mean, I had the fact that they did the MINS system for Five Eyes for DISA. I had the information they do the seaport contracts, which boy, this story just all Navy in the Navy Yard. I had GSA 8A set aside business, okay, and I had the fact that Scott Clotworthy was potentially an FBI agent or CIA agent in the past or related to one. And then you had Chris Clotworthy over at a foundation that John Podesta was a part of. Now, he's the librarian, but he was the key assistant. He was the key right-hand person to Molly McCauley, who just ended up dead. There's a lot of smoking guns here. There's a lot of red flags here. So I think I have every right as a journalist to keep going. There's an absence of malice here. They do the State Department Vanguard 2.3 contract for configuring all phones. Again, Anthony Weiner has classified State Department documents on his server. How did they get there? Who configured the server? These are legitimate questions. So I just want to say that I'm not trying to, I only mentioned one employee's name, and I just think it's a legitimate question with us about ready to go to nuclear war with North Korea. Why do we have Scott Clotworthy there? And does Trump know that Scott Clotworthy is there? And does he know who Conceras is? Maybe he does. I'm sure he does. Here's Bob Highly Enriched Mueller, and here's George Mueller, the guy who ran NASA, which is great. It was a great moment in our lives. But more importantly, he is interested in low Earth orbit satellites, okay? And those are used for surveillance, okay? So I'm not the one, oops, sorry about that, folks. I'm not the one who went into the low Earth satellite business after I left NASA, okay? So are they setting up satellites for some private interest that Trump doesn't know about? I don't know. Hard to say. But anyway, here he is, 80-year-old George Mueller. He's now the Kistler CEO, and he specializes in these things called LEOs, which are also law enforcement organizations, called big LEOs, which are way up in the sky, and little LEOs, which soar only about 500 to 1,500 miles above the sky. A plane only flies 5 miles, and of course a geosynchronous satellite flies 23,000 miles. So I think I have a very good right as a journalist and a First Amendment right to say what I think, which is a lot of times DynCorp, based in McLean, as is Conceras, same city, uses small business set-aside to make sure that contacts are not competed with. This is a way of avoiding competition, and it is ripe for pay-to-play. And make sure, if you go to Clarksburg, make sure that you go to Clarksburg, take in the Criminal Justice Information System, and look at the new satellite features of the NGA that have been added to the SJIS. Don't, however, if you're Donald Trump or Franklin Pierce, take the last train to Clarksburg.